Shalom, 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 yasha'Allah. This your boy, Brother Shamwa Allah, back at you with another quick edifying video. Today's lesson is going to be called A Peculiar People. A Peculiar People. All right. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahawah, and his only begotten Son's name, who you ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahawashi. All right, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Rawchaa Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well through the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days, and has pushed this gospel and this truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. Almighty Shalom. Another mighty Shalom to all you Akim out there laboring on the highways and on the hedges and on the unicorn, which is this internet, pushing this 100% doctrine, this 100% truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty Shalom to you all as well. Like I said, today's lesson is going to be called A Peculiar People. All right, and this is from Your Web. It's an article I found. It says, without black people's history, are white people independently and sustainably relevant? Okay, and you see the picture here. It says America was built with bloodshed. All right, and they have Habakkuk 2 and verse number 12. Let me read a little bit about this. All right, so it says, disclaimer, it says this is not a anti-white argument. It is a anti-white supremacy argument, an anti-historical era, erasure argument. It says, and a critique of systems, not individuals. That says the purpose of this column is is analytical, moral. All right, so let me just read down a little bit. So it says, human history is a story of exchange and intellect, labor, conflict, creativity, culture, science, spiritual struggle. Every civilization has produced light and darkness. It's yet when we follow the factual record, one truth becomes unavoidable. Europe and Babylon did not rise through independent innovation peacefully, peaceful growth, or sustainable moral systems. Their dominance required centuries of extraction, of land, of people, of culture, of labor, and of ideas. It says from the Crusades to the Inquisitions, of the transatlantic slave trade to the carving up of Africa, from the Trail of Tears to World Wars I and II, European powers produced the deadliest conflicts and the most expansive systems of exploitation in history. Over 100 million deaths in the 20th century alone. It says this raises the central biblical anchored question. It says, you see this picture here, it says, remove black genius and the modern world collapses. All right. It says, without black people's history, are whites societies independently and sustainably relevant. It says, for centuries, Americans and European institutions constructed a mythology of independent greatness, yet nearly every sector of Western progress contains the fingerprints of black genius, black labors, black culture, black spirituality. And in many cases, the architects of these contributions were erased, miscredited, stolen, or buried. To answer the question, we must evaluate whether Western relevance could exist independently without black contributions. It says whether it could endure sustainably without collapsing under the weight of injustice. All right. It says before addressing history, The Most High's word offers the moral framework. And they had Habakkuk 2:12. It says, "Woe unto them who build a city with bloodshed and establish a town by injustice." All right. Um, let's see. They have Micah 6:8. It says, "He has shown you what is good, to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your power." Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers. Um, all right. Salakia. So it says, by these biblical standards, Western dominance built on slavery, genocide, colonization does not qualify as independent or sustainable relevance. It says, without Black invention, America is not independently relevant. It says, from the 1600s onward, African and African American innovation shaped the foundations of American history, often without credit. And what's crazy is, just reading this, and you see like the identity of the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right, are people that they don't know. All right, because you start off talking about Black this, Black that. Now it's African American this, African American that, or African this, African American. Our people are lost and they do not consider. All right, it's a lot, guys. Just a side note. All right, so 1600s to the 1700s. It says Wanzimus. So it says enslaved Africans introduced uh, inoculation technology, saving Boston and laying the foundation for modern vaccination. It says African rice farmers engineered the irrigation systems that made South Carolina a major colony. Enslaved blacksmiths created agricultural tools slaveholders patented under their own names. It says white America was not independently relevant in medicine, agriculture, or early technology. In the 1800s, under slavery, Black inventors were legally barred from holding patents, so white slave owners took credit. Black inventions laid the foundation for cotton processing, horse-drawn agricultural machinery, steam boiler safety systems, shipyard innovations, mechanical reaping technologies. After slavery, Lewis Latimer perfected Edison's light bulb. Benjamin Montgomery invented the steamboat propeller. Granville Woods modernized railroads and telecommunications. Elijah McCoy revolutionized lubrication systems. It says the real McCoy. It says white progress was not independent. It was dependent on Black genius. In the early 1900s, Garrett Morgan, the traffic light and the gas mask. Frederick McKinley Jones, refrigerated trucking, global food industry. Otis Boykin, pacemaker, uh, uh, resistor, IBM devices. It says Marie Van Brittan Brown, home security system. Dr. Charles Drew, blood banking. All right, it says American infrastructure is literally Black engineered. Remove Black inventors from the 1600s to the 1900s, and America does not function. Thus, the Western technological relevance was neither independent and it certainly was not sustainable without Black creativity. All right. It says, without Black military excellence, America does not survive. It says 1st Rhode Island Regiment, the Revolutionary War, 54th Massachusetts, the Civil War, Buffalo Soldiers, Harlem Hellfighters, Tuskegee Airmen, 6888th Battalion. It says Black soldiers repeatedly rescued a nation that denied them humanity. White America's military relevance was not independent. It required Black sacrifice. Without Black labor, and economic foundations, America has no sustainable wealth. All right. It says black people built the agricultural, industrial, and financial backbone of the nation. By 1860, cotton represented over 50% of all U.S. exports. Northern banks, Ivy Leagues, shipping companies, and insurance firms built their wealth on enslaved labor. After slavery, black economic engines like Tulsa, Black Wall Street, Durham's Height District, Richmond's Jackson Ward were destroyed because white systems could not compete with independent black prosperity, right? And ultimately, it was of Yahawashi, all right? Because this is the land of our captivity, all right? Um, so it says white America's wealth was not self-generated and is certainly not sustainable without black labor. It says without black culture, America has no soul, no global relevance. All right. So it says no jazz, no blues, no gospel, no hip hop, no R&B, no soul, no rock. It says remove Baldwin, Morrison, Hurston, Portier, Beyonce, Jackson, Serena, Simone. It says in America loses the global culture force that gave it its identity. All right. It says without the HBCUs and black intellectual leadership, America cannot function. HBCUs, historical black colleges and universities, produce 40% of black engineers, 50% of lawyers, 70% of black doctors, 80% of black judges. So it says remove the HBCUs and you erase the backbone of America's scientific, legal, medical, and civic leadership. It says the humanistic conclusion after examining without black people's history, white societies are neither independent nor sustainably relevant. Okay. It says because Western achievement was built on black labor, black innovation, black intellectual leadership, black culture, black agriculture, black moral correction, black spirituality, black sacrifice. When we strip away slavery, colonization, genocide, patent theft, cultural appropriation, economic extraction, um, white Western societies are left with philosophies, literature, some science, and an extremely violent geopolitical record. All right. Um, let's see. It says black people didn't just participate in America, they stabilized it. They didn't just contribute, they sustained it. They didn't just help build the nation, they made it morally, culturally, and spiritually relevant. All right. So this is a little article, like I said, I found. And, you know, because it wasn't a coincidence that they came to the west coast of Africa, all right, to gather people, all right, and start rounding up, just random people, and that's how in history, you were taught, like, oh, they just grabbed some Africans off the west coast of Africa and, put them on a ship and made them, start farming, made them start doing these things. No, all right. They knew exactly who they were taking, all right? And we know that it's all biblical, okay? It's all biblical, all right? Matter of fact, let's see. Let's go to the book of Genesis real quick. Genesis, let's see. 20, Slovakia. Salakia, bear with me. All right. Let's see. Salakia, I'm just trying to look to see where this is. Let's see. Okay, let's go back real quick. Let's go to Genesis 25. And let's jump down. Whoops, Salakia. To verse number 21. It says, and Isaac, this is Genesis chapter 25, verse 21. And Isaac entreated Yahawah Bahasham Shai for his wife because she was barren, and Yahawah was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. It says, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahawah, and said, Yahawah, and Yahawah said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Okay, and the stronger, of course, is the Israelites. Okay, and the prophecy is that the elder is going to serve the younger. Okay, but one of the things is, Esau, sold his birthright. Okay, and so that his blessing was taken away from him. All right, so when we go down to verse number 40, start at verse number 38. All right, because Rebekah, told Jacob to put, I think it was goat hair, on him, on Jacob, so that he could be like Esau. So when Isaac, went to bless him, he thought that he was Esau. Okay, so this is Genesis chapter 27, verse 38, and it says, and Esau said unto his father, Has thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven of from above. Okay, so he blessed him, all right, with the fatness of the earth. Okay, but how is he going to get it? Okay, it says, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion that thou shalt break his yoke upon thy neck. Okay, and it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning of my father are at hand. Then I will slay my brother Jacob. All right. And ultimately, Esau didn't slay Jacob. All right. But that hatred was passed on. All right. From his lineage. All right. Down. All right. So, and you have that ongoing, that perpetual hatred, that Ezekiel talks about, Ezekiel 35. All right. They've had that perpetual hatred. All right. But they took the earth by violence, by their sword, right? Esau, Edom. Okay. So Esau, Edom, what they did was they took the children of Israel into captivity. All right. And brought them here. All right. Uh, Thus as the curses say, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, and it says, and Yahawah Bahasham Shai shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. All right. This is modern day Egypt that we're in right now. All right. The scriptures call it Revelation 11 and 8. This is spiritual Sodom and Egypt. Okay. So it says, "And Yahawah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy thee." Right? So slaves. Okay. And in slavery, what happened? All right. Esau, right, got rich. All right. Esau, by the blood, sweat, and tears of the Israelites, okay, of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all right, because it wasn't just, black, but it was the nation of Israel, okay, and as you see throughout history, when these nations take Israel into captivity and they thrive, all right, because guess what, the children of Israel are stronger than everybody else. All right. They're a peculiar people, as I said before, right? Let's get that. Deuteronomy 14 and verse 2. I'll start at verse 1. All right. It says, "Ye are the children of Yahawah, your power. Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead." It says, "For thou art an holy people unto Yahawah thy power, and Yahawah have chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth." Okay? So above all the nations, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the Israelites, all right, the nation of Israel, all right, are above all the other nations. All right, and we see it. We see in our dominance, even now, even in our lowest estate. All right. You watch sports, who dominates? The Israelites. All right. They said the one shall be stronger than the other. Okay. You see the stuff that our people have been through. These other nations can't go through the stuff that we went through. All right. And keep their sanity and smile. Right. Through everything, you still got Jake over here smiling and laughing. Been through hell and back. You know. But you know, it's a peculiar people. So let's look up that word peculiar. All right. Um, so it says peculiar. Let's get this word.
Strong's H 5459. Segolah. Segolah.
Segolah. All right. Possession, property, valued property, peculiar, treasure, right? Or just treasure. All right. And the Lord said that, the children of Israel are basically are his treasures. Okay. So when you have in the book of Joel 3, all right, it says verse number 3, it says, "And they have cast lot for my people, all right, for his treasure, all right, and have given a boy for a harlot, sold a girl for wine that they might drink." It says, "Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head?" It says, "Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my godly pleasant things." It says, "The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold to the Grecians." It says that they might remove them far from their border. Okay, so the real treasure are the Israelites. All right, Yahweh's children. Okay, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, and they've been taken away. They were sold. All right, and you saw how these other nations. You watch Roots, and you see, all right, that there was Ishmael. All right, you had Ham in it. All right, and what were they doing? They were selling the children of Israel. All right, they were capturing them and putting them and selling them to Esau. All right, sell them to Esau, man. Right, bringing them on the ships. Right, all you have to do you just watch these movies, man, and you see it. All right, but Roots kind of it showed it because it showed the different nations, right, taking the children of Israel into captivity. All right, and bringing them, on the ships. All right, to what? To build, right? Because they just wasn't picking people and just say, oh well, this is some dumb idiot, right? Let's go have him just work in the fields. No, they knew. All right, they knew the special ability that the children of Israel had. All right, you see the things that they created. All right, and so what was the thing that they tried to do? Right, in slavery, they tell you couldn't read. All right, because guess what? They already know. Right, when you read the book of Babylon to Timbuktu, it talks about how the children of Israel, they kept records. They kept their records with them. You know, so we were always reading and doing these different things. All right. So they knew that, by stopping us from reading, then what? We wouldn't understand. We wouldn't know what's going on. All right. These are the things that's going on. But yet and still, you have some of our people who, created, pretty much everything. All right. Like, what is that? Jeremiah 51 and verse number 19. It says, the portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance, and Yahawah, Bahasham of host, is his name. All right, but the portion of Jacob is not like them. He's the former of all things. All right, and you have the Heavenly Father who created all things. All right, let's get that. Psalms 24. It says, Psalms chapter 24, verse 1, it says, the earth is Yahawah's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Okay. He had, he's the former of all things. All right. So what more his children, all right, and the things that they do. All right. So like when you read that article, right? What? Music, science, agriculture, right? They flourish on that. All right. You got articles about young children who, especially, so-called Blacks, Hispanic, and Native American who are geniuses. All right. High IQ. All right. They didn't just take some, uh, what's the word? They didn't just take some, no name, right? They knew, all right, that, the ability that the children of Israel had. All right. You had to have an ability to build a White House, all right, to, build, the things that the children of Israel, refrigerated trucks, all right, the stop sign, if it wasn't for, the Israelites, folks would just be driving around here, you know, with no type of order, all right. But that's the thing, because we were given wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, all right. Deuteronomy 4 and verse number 5, it says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahawah by Shemel Shai, my power, commanded me, that ye should do so in the land where ye go to possess it. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Okay. And now, right, we're at the bottom. All right. But even in still, Jake thrives, and you see, all right, they've created pretty much everything, relevant, man. All right. But what happened? You saw the in the article, back in those days, a slave couldn't patent anything. All right. So who took it? Their master, Esau, right? He took it. All right. He took and said that he created these things. All right, because you were his property. All right, that's how it is. All right, but we are a peculiar people, man. We're a treasure to Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. All right, but you used, and forced, um, your authority, by the blessing of the sword, to take over, the earth. All right, that's why it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right, Malachi 1:4, right? Edom, all right, is the border of wickedness. All right, but we understand that order will be set soon. All right, and the children of Israel will be back on top. All right, and even in our, like I say, on our lowest estate. I mean, you see Jake, man, right? Jake is the fastest runner, the highest jumper. All right, you got Jake out here. I forgot the guy's name, but he's like not a scientist or something, but he's, what is his name? It slipped my tongue. But he, talks about, the stars and the, all types of scientific stuff, the physics and all these different things, man. Jake is known, and but what, look who our power is, right? Let's get this. Let's get 2 Samuel 7, and let's go to verse number, might be 7 or 8, I believe. Slovakia. It is 2 Samuel 24. But I think I want 23. Yep, let's start at verse 20. Yeah, 23. It says, "And what nation in the earth is like thy people, even like Israel?" Right? 2 Samuel 7 and 23. It says, even like Israel, whom the Most High went to redeem for a people to himself, and to make him a name, and to do for you great things and terrible for thy land before thy people, which thou redeemest to thee from Egypt and from the nations and their gods. It says, "For thou hast confirmed to thyself thy people Israel to be a people unto thee forever, and thou, Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, are become their power." Okay? And with the power of the creator of the universe, what more us, you know? And the things that we can do, right? But what, Esau and these other nations try to, keep our intelligence down, all right, by doing what? You look at Jake now, right? Jake doesn't want to be a creator of things. Jake wants to be a rapper. Jake wants to be um he wants to be a rapper, a ball player. He wants to be, this, simpleton stuff, man. He doesn't want to be great. All right. He doesn't want to be great. All right. Because Esau has conditioned his mind, all right, to think simple. All right. Here's the handout. All right. Instead of Jake having to go and get it. Right. You think about, back in slavery and even in segregation times, hey, Jake had to be, they had to have people who were going to be doctors, who were going to be lawyers, who were going to be these different things. Okay. Own grocery stores, right? Because we couldn't go into these other things. All right. And we, and ultimately they thrive, but it wasn't of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. All right. So you had like Tulsa. All right. And guess what? Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi threw it down by Esau. All right. Because this is our captivity. Okay. We're not supposed to be here thriving and doing these. This is our punishment. at the end of the day. All right. But even so, even then, there's glimpses of of the greatness that Yahweh Shai has put in our people, man. All right. And you see, all right, the simple things, right? Esau, you know, didn't even know how to wash himself. All right. You had to teach him basic things, man. All right. That's who, but that just shows you the power of Yahweh Shai. All right. That he has lifted up a troglodyte. I think that's what it's called. You know, uh, he's raised that up to be over his people. All right, who are supposed to be over everybody. All right, but he's raised up the basis of men. All right, to rule over us. All right, and to shed blood. All right, and have us build all his stuff while he takes the credit. All right, but if we went away, they couldn't sustain anything. They couldn't even fend for themselves, right? What did they do when they came over here? All right? They had to get Gad in them to teach them how to live. All right? And what did they, bless them with? Blankets with smallpox. All right? you know, rounding them up to a reservation land that's nothing but dirt. Okay? When Gad and Reuben and them were roaming the green hills, all right, and chasing the buffalo and doing different things. Now they, subject to uh, a reservation that's nothing but dirt, right? That's what you get from your enemy, all right? And that's why, the scriptures are so important to us, all right? Because that gospel, that good news, man, all right, that we're going to get out of this situation. That Yahweh Shemel Shai, you know, loves his children. All right. And we were here for punishment. And our punishment is almost over, man, at the end of the day. All right. And Jake will be, well, I ain't gonna say Jake, but the Israelites will be great again. All right. And we'll be on the top, through the power and spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai. All right. Starting with the elect. Okay. Yahweh Shai is coming to deliver his elect. I know I'm just kind of talking and rambling, but just looking at that article and you see all the things that Jake has invented, you know, even in his lowest estate, even in captivity. All right, Jake was creating things, through success. We even got it now. You got a brother who basically turned plastic right into oil, right, to run cars, if I'm not mistaken. All right. You had another Jake, all right, and who was a security guard, and come to find out he was creating an engine that worked on water. All right, in the Buffalo top shooting. All right, you found out, you researched him, and he was working on an engine. All right, that could be run by water. All right, hey, Jake is you can see who the children of Israel are. All right. The children of Yahweh Shem Shai, who is the creator of everything. All right. So why wouldn't the children of Israel, be the creators of things and of innovations and things that you see? All right. So yeah, I just wanted to do, quick little lesson on that. I saw that, and I definitely wanted to touch on it. You know what I mean? But I think I've kind of covered pretty much everything. All right. So, Lord's will, this was edifying. All right. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Kol Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rechach Radash. Peace and blessings to the elect of the 12 tribes scattered abroad, a mighty shalom to the 144,000 men. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well through the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days. Another mighty shalom to the rest of the elect and the household of faith. All right, stay diligent, stay focused. All right, and understand, man. See, Esau and these other nations are keeping your mental your mental down, man. You need your power. All right, which is Yahawah Yahawah Shai. Okay, but stay focused. All right, let this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding be your stability in these times. Our people want to be, rappers and actors and ballers, but really you're supposed to be kings of the earth, man, at the end of the day. All right, you should focus on having that rulership mentality and get back to that and be great. All right, so with that, I say a ball, and shalom.